Hello, everybody, and welcome to the January 28th, 2019 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine. Now, before this episode begins, I'd like to say I am not going to talk about Howard Schultz's 2020 campaign, because that has not happened yet, and furthermore, I hope that if I ignore it, it will go away. The only thing I will say is it's going to be very, very tragic watching the people who complained that Bernie split the vote, splitting their vote 15 different ways between Harris and Gillibrand and Castro and now Schultz, and then causing Donald Trump to win 4 more years, meaning that we can point at them and laugh, just as they pointed at us and got very, very angry. They didn't laugh, though, because they're typically very, very mean. Nothing wrong with that, so am I, but just an observation. Because one of us voted for Ralph Nader or something. Anyway, so the government is officially reopened now because Donald Trump made a deal with congressional Democrats that officially allowed the government shutdown to end for 3 weeks. So he could give the State of the Union address and it wouldn't look as awful when he shut it down again for just as long. Because that's what this is really all about, mind you. You see, here's the thing. When it comes to something like this, you don't want it to go on for any longer than you absolutely have to. And the polls were overwhelmingly showing people did not like the government shutdown and blamed it on Donald Trump. So now he's attempting to do basically 2 shutdowns, one of which will probably last around the same amount of time, but it won't be combined. Either that or some theory he'll declare a national emergency to allow the wall to be built. If he does that, then he is a very, very idiotic tyrant, quite frankly. Because he didn't do that, what is it now, 2 years ago. Anyway, more 2020 stuff going on. First off, we have our first official dropout of the race, and that is Democratic State Senator from West Virginia, Richard Ojeda. Now, I liked Ojeda. In fact, he was actually the first candidate I was supporting if you look back in the archives. Mainly because I feel like he had some pretty good policies when it came to most of everything, and overall was on the right ideas. However, unfortunately he had to drop, most notably because he simply did not feel he could get his campaign off the ground, and most of his donations were coming from working class people, and he did not personally believe that it was a good idea to, well, screw them. It is, however, good that well, I do think he would have been a positive influence on the race, don't get me wrong. However, at this point we're already having some really good progressive candidates coming in, most notably Tulsi Gabbard and Elizabeth Warren, so I personally do not see an issue with Richard Ojeda dropping out. I feel like he was necessary at the start to really get the progressive ball rolling, even if it was only a little. However, at the end of the day, I don't think he would have contributed all that much other than being really good on the debate stage. And possibly using it to boost his name up more. Similar to what I feel Pete Buttigieg, I'm still not entirely sure how you pronounce that, is doing. Anyway, so Kamala Harris announced she's running for president on Friday. Again! She filed with the FEC a week ago. Has been unofficially running for almost like 3 years at this point, and for that matter, formed an exploratory committee months ago. And yet she is still announcing her presidential campaign. Quite frankly, I'm expecting it to be a daily story where she drops out of the race just to re-enter it 20 minutes later. She at this time announced it at Oakland, California, giving her official slogan, Kamala Harris for the people. She's also talking about what she calls new populism, which actually reminds me of new nationalism, or for that matter, what's the other one? No, I forget what the other one is. And in case you're wondering, you can in fact read her entire campaign website in Spanish. It's also just atrociously designed. It does that thing that some web pages do where you go down, you see more of it, but then it also has its own separate page. It doesn't make any sense to me. It boggles my mind. So, who is Kamala Harris? Well, I've talked about her several times, but let's let her own website explain. Kamala Harris has spent her entire life defending our American values. What does that even mean? From fighting to fix our broken criminal justice system, yeah, she implemented 3-strike laws and kept the man locked up under a technicality as Attorney General of California. To taking on Wall Street banks for middle-class homeowners, that's just a lie. Kamala has always worked for the people. One paragraph and I'm already angry. On the bright side, however, she is refusing to accept donations from corporate PACs, which is always a step in the right direction in my book. So, at least it's not all bad. Again, my opinion on Kamala Harris can basically be summed up as this. I don't like her by any means, but she isn't quite bad enough for me to viscerally hate her. I think she has quite a few corporatist and neo-hawk elements, or war-hawk elements. However, socially she's typically on the right issues. Economically she's mixed, but, you know. Lastly, Tulsi Gabbard has released her first campaign out of 2020, a direct attack on interventionists and war hawks. This, of course, makes a lot of sense because Tulsi Gabbard is most known for her foreign issues, most famously opposition to wars such as the war in Iraq and regime changes to the ones that happened in Syria, Libya, or the one currently going on in Venezuela. However, there are a few things that ad did leave out. Most notably, Tulsi Gabbard still does support drone strikes, and for that matter, supports torture. Both of which are not positions I agree with, but I guess if you are drone striking one person, which is always how it works, it's okay. That's never how it works, though, and if you think it is, you're just stupid, objectively. So Tulsi Gabbard is not the perfect candidate on foreign policy that a lot of liberals are painting her as, do not get me wrong. However, she is still miles better than, off the top of my head, Kamala Harris, who supported a preemptive strike against North Korea. In fact, while we're at it, she is also infinitely better than people such as Kirsten Gillibrand, who supported basically every intervention the Obama administration attempted to do. So do not get me wrong. Gabbard is not perfect on foreign policy. If you want a perfect foreign policy progressive, you probably have to go with Elizabeth Warren on that. However, it should also be noted that Warren has her own share of issues, which we have covered. So that is it. I am Ephrom, and good night.